Hello, I'm Julien and you're in my container house. Well, right now my house, it mostly looks like a big gift package. Leroy Merlin. So, it's high time I move on to the next step, which is to install the wooden cladding. In the previous videos, I've already shown you how I insulated all my shipping containers from the outside. And now today I'm going to show you how I installed the vertical wooden cladding. First, I'll discuss my mistakes so you can avoid them. And then, I'm going to guide you step by step to show you how to install wooden cladding, whether it's horizontal or vertical. By the way, hi, I'm Julien and this is my container house. I'm 26 years old, have no knowledge of do-it-yourself, but I've taken on the crazy challenge of building an affordable and eco-friendly house. I'm also trying to develop my resilience and live in harmony with nature. I'm filming all of this, I'm putting it on this channel, so subscribe if you want to follow the adventure. A quick reminder of how I insulated my containers. I came to recreate a wooden structure all around, welding every 60 centimeters. Brackets on which I came to screw rafters. On the bottom of the rafters, I came to screw anti-rodent grids to support my insulation. And above all, to prevent animals from making their home inside while maintaining essential ventilation. Between the rafters, I placed 10 semi-pillar wood wool panels, first horizontally and then vertically. This allows me to avoid thermal bridges. And finally, I came to staple a rain screen all around the house. And I finished by putting the PDM, which makes my roof waterproof above my rain screen. And there you have it. The house is insulated, ready to receive a cover. Whether it's a wooden, aluminum, or even a stucco siding, before getting into the details of the siding installation, let's start with my mistakes. And my first mistake was waiting a very long time, too long. Between the installation of my rain screen and my siding project, I stayed for over a year with my rain screen and King Merlin all around the house. But well, my mistake wasn't about not choosing the right sponsor for my rain screen. No, it was really about waiting too long. Actually, to explain about rain screens, there are two types. There are classic rain screens and ultraviolet resistant rain screens. Some open work cladding, like in Clairvoy, has alternating blades that allow visibility of the rain screen behind it. This design is intentional. These rain screens are sun resistant. My rain screen, it was not ultraviolet resistant because my cladding, you will see it later, is closed. And so with the sun and time, my rain screen turned into dust. In fact, it burned up. The ultraviolet rays burned my rain screen. And when I hit it, it was like at the end of Avengers, it really turned into dust. As a result, I really had to change all my rain screen before installing the cladding. So it took me half a day of additional work and it cost me 200 euros. There you have it, changing everything. The rain screen was not a huge mistake, but waiting a few more months would have made it ineffective at protecting the insulation. And there, it would have been a mistake that would have cost much more because my insulation would have been soaked. And then, it's hard to do anything other than buy more insulation. There, it's not 200 euros, but several thousand euros. So I was lucky. But don't make this mistake if you have a rain screen that is not ultraviolet resistant. Don't wait a year leaving it in the sun, otherwise it will burn, quite simply. Well, those were a few mistakes. It wasn't too serious on my side, but if I had been accompanied, if someone had given me advice throughout my construction, I could have saved money, saved time, had better quality materials. And that's why I decided to launch a support offer that you can find on the site julienmalara.fr. My goal is really to accompany you on your container house or ecological house construction site. From A to Z, from the building permit to the end of your construction site. To really give you the best advice, the best tips. We work with an interior architect who can really also help you optimize your entire construction site, your entire construction. In short, go check it out. If you're interested, if you have a house project, we can really support you. It's not very expensive and it can save you a lot of time and money. In short, check it out and let me know your thoughts and if you're interested. Great, the intro is done. Let's get to the main point. How to install wooden siding. And the first question you need to ask yourself is, do you want horizontal or vertical wooden siding? It really changes everything that follows. So, it's purely an aesthetic choice. There's really no structural or lifespan advantage to choosing vertical over horizontal. Some will tell you otherwise, but in reality, I've never found any evidence that proves one cladding is better than the other. Generally, that's it. Aesthetically, vertical cladding will give your house height, whereas horizontal cladding will give it breadth, width, thickness. Let's begin with installing the horizontal cladding since it's the simplest option and purely an aesthetic preference. You just need to screw the battens vertically every 60 centimeters onto our rafters and then screw the cladding horizontally directly on top. The battens allow for an airspace between the rain screen and the cladding to be preserved. It aerates this area and allows it to dry more easily because over time, moisture could damage the wood and insulation. If we want to install vertical cladding, we can't directly put the battens horizontally because it would block the airflow. So we have to do what's called a double batten, that is to say first put vertical battens on our rafters, then horizontal battens, every 60 centimeters. This allows us to then accommodate the vertical cladding while preserving the passage of air inside, which will dry by rain, and the cladding. So you understand why most people choose to do horizontal cladding? It's mainly because it's quicker to do and it costs a little less. For the amount of cladding, it's generally the same whether you do horizontal or vertical cladding. However, it's the amount of lath that will change. For vertical cladding, you will need twice as much lath since there is a double lathing compared to horizontal cladding. But you'll see it's not that big. I use 200 laths costing 500 and 1000 stainless steel screws costing 100 for my house. So a total of 600 euros. If I had done horizontal cladding, I could have saved half, so it would have only cost me 300 euros. Well, I thought it was worth paying 300 euros to have vertical cladding. Because my house is single story, it's very wide, it gave it a bit of height, so I thought it was much prettier. Let's now move on to the installation of the cladding. But just before the cladding boards, we're going to put a new rodent-proof grid on our lintels to prevent rodents from getting behind the cladding and digging into the insulation to make their nest inside. Whether it's for horizontal or vertical cladding, the most important thing is really the first board. It needs to be at the right height and level so that we can then install all the others in succession without any problem. Be careful, the cladding boards must be at least 20 centimeters off the ground to prevent moisture from rising into the wood, and thus preserve its lifespan. A little tip before installing your cladding boards, consider running electrical conduits behind them between the stones so you can later embed the electrical outlets in your cladding. If your cladding board is less than 12 centimeters wide, one screw in the center every 60 centimeters is enough to secure it. For boards wider than 4.72 inches, it's recommended to use 2 screws every 23.62 inches. To prevent the wood from warping over time, it is generally recommended to retreat the cuts, but I was told that this is not necessarily essential, knowing that later we will treat the entire cladding with a stain or with a saturator. I'll show you all of this at the end of the video. To install all my battens and all my cladding, it took me a good 2.5 days per side, so about 10 days to go around the house. But that's without counting the outlines of the joinery and the finishes. And so we move on to step 3. Now that the cladding has been roughly installed, I need to do the outlines of the joinery, the finishes, and all these elements. It's going to take a little more time. Around my joinery, I started by cutting the cladding, so I made some markings to see that it arrives exactly, and I cut all that with a jigsaw at the right distance. Then I came to stick a resilient self-adhesive foam strip to cut off the sound transmission, drops of water that will fall on the window sills. For the window sills, if you have a house like mine, which does not comply with any standard, you can make custom aluminum window sills. On sites like Window24 or Easy Folding, they absolutely do not sponsor the videos. It really helped me, so I'm sharing the advice with you. On my soundproofing strips, I came to place my aluminum window support, which I made to measure, and I glued it to the window. By applying silicone sealant to ensure waterproofing, the window support can then be directly screwed onto the polyvinyl chloride frame, but I preferred to screw it to the oriented strand board. Underneath, with screws of the same color, and is sealed to preserve the waterproofing. Another mistake I made was storing my siding outside for too long, which led to ants making galleries in it. In fact, in my siding, so I had dirt everywhere I had to clean. It made me lose quite a bit of time. Once it was cleaned, I cut my blades to the right length, to the right width to make my window frames. I then came to screw them on the sides and above all, fix finishing angles to have a final result that is very clean. And finally, I came to put a silicone seal between the siding blades and the windowsill to ensure total waterproofing of my carpentry. It took me about 3 days to finish all the finishes for my 3-bay windows, my front door and my 4 windows. I still have to put roller shutters on my carpentry and put a coping on my mother of pearl earth to finish, between my ethylene propylene DN monomer tarp and my siding. But I will do that when I have a little more money and especially time to take care of it. We arrive at the last step. Once the siding is installed, it now needs to be treated. I haven't done it yet due to procrastination, but I know precisely what needs to be done, so I'll explain it all to you. In theory, my siding is already autoclave treated, which means it's class 4, so it's made to withstand the outdoors. Actually, the treatment is not really to extend the life of the siding, even though I think it helps a bit. It's mainly to prevent it from graying due to ultraviolet exposure. In fact, if you want to keep this color of the wood so that it doesn't turn gray, you're going to have to treat it. Just so you know, a pine cladding like what I chose has a lifespan of on average 30 to 50 years. And after, if you want a higher quality wood, so Douglas or exotic wood, it will have a better lifespan. However, you're going to spend 2 to 4 times your budget, so see if it's really worth it. In any case, what is certain is that treating your wood is still going to... I think it will extend the lifespan a bit, even though what I was saying, that's not the main objective. You have 2 options for treatment, stains and saturators, and I'm going to explain the advantages and disadvantages of both. To put it simply, a stain is like a transparent or wood-colored paint that we're going to apply to our siding to protect it from ultraviolet rays and thus prevent it from graying. The main benefit of stains is their longevity. High-end stains have a manufacturer's stated lifespan of 10-15 years. In reality, if it lasts 6 to 7 years, that's already pretty good, and then you have to move on to a new coat. The disadvantage of stain, and it's a big one, is that like paint, if you want to reapply a coat after 7, 8, 9 years, you're going to have to sand the old coat first. Yeah, because the stain actually puts a little film on your siding that prevents you from reapplying a coat. So imagine sanding all your walls every 7, 8 years to apply the coat of stain. It can quickly become annoying and time-consuming. You've understood, I therefore went for the second solution, the saturators. Actually, the saturators, it's a bit like oils that will nourish the wood deeply and allow it to naturally resist ultraviolet rays and therefore not to gray. Similarly, saturators can be transparent or pigmented with a wood color. And apparently, from what I understand, saturators with pigments protect better against ultraviolet rays than transparent saturators. There you go, tip. The big advantage that made me choose a saturator over a stain is that it's not like paint. As I told you, we're feeding the wood, so there's no need to sand. Every time we reapply a layer, the wood has absorbed the oil. We reapply a layer of oil, that's it. We reapply a saturator. It saves us a lot of time. The downside is that you have to apply the saturator twice as often as the stains. I told you, the stains, they last about 7, 8, 9 years. The saturator, you have to reapply it every 4 or 5 years, you know? You need to apply it twice as often, but it's twice as fast to apply since there's no sanding required, just reapplying a layer. Beyond everything we've just said, you should know that stains are mainly used for vertical surfaces. If you have horizontal surfaces like wooden decks, for example, it's not suitable at all, you will definitely need to use a saturator. So, since I have a wooden deck, I just have to buy large pots of saturator, and I use the same saturator for my deck and my siding. Every 4 to 5 years, I reapply it everywhere. It's simpler, it costs less, it's the solution I've decided to take. Unfortunately, I can't apply the saturator with a paint gun because the saturator really needs to soak into the wood. So it's recommended to do it with a roller. You also have a lot of other things to take into account. You shouldn't do it when it's too hot. You shouldn't do it when it's raining. There you go, your siding is now installed. You know how to treat it, you know how to do everything from A to Z. So we get to the part that wraps all this up. How much did it cost me? I know it's very important to you as it is to me, so I'm going to give you all the details in my video about insulating my house. I told you that it cost me 5,600 euros for the rafter structure, insulation and rain screen. For the cladding work, I bought 500 euros worth of battens and 100 euros worth of screws to fix them. Then the cladding cost me 3,360 euros for 180 square meters of wall to cover, plus 4,000 stainless steel screws to fix it. That's 400 euros for the finishes. I spent 400 euros on angle brackets and 600 euros on aluminum window sills. So in total it cost me 5,360 euros. The insulation of the exterior walls of my 120 square meter house from structure to cladding cost me a total of 11,000 euros. In conclusion, this cladding project was not very complicated, but it was very long. Let's say that I spent a good 15 days on the insulation site and a good 15 days on the cladding site. And on top of that, it's 30 days of work where I was often at least 2 people to be able to move faster and above all, work more comfortably. So if you really start on your own, take into account that it will take a lot more time. As an alternative to wooden cladding, I could also have used a rigid wood fiber, which is insulating and rainproof. And above all, which can accommodate a plaster. After the plaster, it wouldn't necessarily have been much cheaper because wood fiber and plaster, it still costs money. And it's not given. And it wouldn't necessarily have been much faster to do. Because, plastering is still a particular technique. But there you go. I prefer to have a wood finish, a more natural finish, which contrasts a bit with the container inside my house. So I'm absolutely not unhappy with my choice to do a wooden cladding, but in itself, there are all sorts of techniques for insulating the outside of your house with horizontal, vertical, aluminum wood cladding. You can put stone facings, you can put stucco, as I was saying. All these solutions, I present them to you in my support offers that we have created to help you build your container house or your eco-friendly house. If you have a house project, check out Julian Malarifer's website for more information. We really help you from A to Z, from the building permit to your energy independence. We can help you design how to be energy independent by producing your electricity with solar panels. We really show you all the solutions. We give you advice so you don't make the same mistakes as me. But also not the same mistakes as other self-builders who help me in the training, who also come to give you their advice. So really, I try to make sure that all possible knowledge about container houses and more generally ecological houses, you could find them during these accompaniments. All the information is in the description. You can also book a phone appointment with me to present your project and for me to tell you what support would be most suitable for your needs. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was high time I made this video on cladding, over a year after my installation video. Many of you were waiting for the next part, wondering if my house will always be a house of King Merlin or if one day it will be finished. Is it finished now? Well, I still have quite a few little things to do, but it will be an opportunity to make new videos. Subscribe to catch the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. This one. See you very soon. Though tired, the adventure goes on. Go small.